Sometimes all it takes is a single social media post to push the entire Middle East to the brink. And that's exactly what just happened. The United States has ordered a full naval blockade of Iran, a move with, frankly, staggering global implications. So how on earth did we get here? Well, let's break it down. We're going to unpack the failed diplomacy, the military action that came before it, and the high-stakes nuclear standoff that's at the heart of it all.
To really get a handle on the administration's moves, you have to first understand the words, the rhetoric being used. President Trump doesn't frame this as some kind of complex diplomatic chess match. No, he frames it as a direct, almost personal response to years of threats from Tehran. And this isn't just talk. It's the foundation for a policy that sends a very clear signal. Negotiation has its limits.
And just a few days ago, well, those limits weren't just reached, they were completely shattered. The rhetoric officially gave way to hard military power. So get this, the order came without any warning, announced directly on social media. I mean, think about that. This move immediately sent shockwaves through global oil markets and put the entire region on high alert. It really is the most serious military escalation we've seen in years.
Okay, so what does this order actually mean on the water? It's not just about stopping Iranian ships. The U.S. Navy has been told to interdict, and that's a key word. It means to stop and detain any ship from any country that has paid Iran a toll for safe passage. The goal here is brutally simple. Cut off a major source of cash for Tehran and break its control over this absolutely critical waterway.
Right, but a move this big, a blockade like this, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's the direct result of some incredibly intense, last-ditch diplomatic efforts that dramatically collapsed just days before.
I mean, can you just picture the scene? For 21 straight hours, U.S. and Iranian officials were locked in a room trying to pull the world back from the edge. 21 hours. But it was no use. The gap between what each side wanted was just too wide to bridge, and the talks completely fell apart.
And this right here shows us exactly where it all went wrong. The U.S. put a pretty stunning offer on the table. They said the current regime in Tehran could stay in power. But in exchange, there was one demand that was totally non-negotiable. Iran had to give up all of its enriched uranium. And Iran refused. They gambled, apparently believing their nuclear program was their last real piece of leverage and that the U.S. would eventually just give in. It turned out to be a catastrophic miscalculation.
But to really understand why Iran would make such a gamble, you have to rewind just a little bit, because before the diplomacy failed, there was a war.
And this timeline, wow, it shows just how fast things went off the rails. What started as internal anti-government protests just a few months ago, that led to a devastating 40-day military campaign by the U.S. and Israel. When that didn't force a breakthrough, the talks happened, they failed, and then, boom, the blockade. We're talking about a few short months from street protests to the edge of an all-out war.
And that military campaign, Operation Epic Fury, is the crucial piece of context for those failed talks, because it was incredibly effective. So you have to understand, Iran didn't just walk into that negotiating room as an equal power. It was basically dragged to the table after its naval forces had been systematically annihilated.
And listen to this quote from a regional source. It really paints a grim picture of what happened. The Iranian Navy was, for all intents and purposes, gone. And this is what makes their decision to walk away from the deal so puzzling to so many people in the West. I mean, with no real conventional military left to fight with, why would you walk away from a deal that guarantees your regime gets to survive?
But let's be really clear here. This isn't just a regional fight. The decision to blockade the Strait of Hormuz is sending massive economic and political shockwaves across the entire globe.
And here it is. This is the number that should have everyone's attention. A full 20%, 1/5 of the world's entire oil supply passes through this one single narrow choke point. And with this blockade, that flow is now at risk of being shut off, which could instantly send energy prices through the roof and maybe even trigger a global recession.
Now you might be thinking, well, the U.S. doesn't get that much of its own oil from there anymore. And you'd be right. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. The global market is all connected. When 20% of the supply is at risk, the price for a barrel of oil goes up for everybody, which means higher prices at the pump for people all over the world.
So, of course, this leads to a really complicated diplomatic question that's causing some major friction between allies. The U.S. has been pointedly asking why other nations, especially in Europe, who really depend on this oil, didn't get involved in the military operations to secure the waterway. It raises this fundamental and frankly uncomfortable question about shared global responsibility.
Well, when you peel back all these layers, the destroyed Navy,
the failed talks, the global economic risk, it all boils down to one central, terrifying issue. The one thing that drove every single one of these decisions.
And this is the number that changed everything. During those talks, the Iranian negotiators made a shocking claim. Maybe they thought it was a brilliant bargaining chip. They said they now had enough highly enriched uranium to build 11 nuclear bombs. It was just a stunning admission, and it confirmed the absolute worst-case scenario for U.S. intelligence.
And this chart really puts into perspective just how dangerously close they are. Iran has enriched uranium up to 60% purity. Okay, now the level you need for a weapon is 90%. That might sound like a big gap, but in nuclear science, making that jump from 60 to 90% is considered just one final technical step. They are right on the verge.
So for the United States, that's it. A clear red line has been crossed. President Trump's position is firm. Allowing Iran to keep that uranium, even if international inspectors are watching, is simply not an option. From the administration's point of view, it would make the entire military campaign meaningless. That material had to go, period.
And so, this is where we are. Diplomacy is dead. A military blockade is choking the world's most critical oil artery. Iran gambled that its nuclear program was its ultimate trump card, and it seems they lost. The U.S. is now enforcing its red line with its Navy, believing it's absolutely essential for global security. So what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? We might be about to find out.